Paragraphs and short notes about different topics. Price hike. Price hike of essential commodities is the most concerned issue for the consumers of Bangladesh, especially for the city dwellers. Food is the only commodity that cannot be compromised under any circumstances. There are some reasons for price hike, which are 1. Low level of production in the domestic market due to flood and cyclone. 2. Rising prices in the international market. 3. Declaration of export restriction imposed by some countries. But skyrocketing of price of essentials in our country seems to be very illogical. Where 20% rise in price is logical, in reality 80 to 100% rise exists. Some hoarders are working behind this illogical price hike. Government is facing huge institutional setback in the price mechanism. Limited activities of TCB, trading corporations of Bangladesh, have very little impact in this regard. Some unscrupulous businessmen are taking this chance, and the government has to undertake some steps to destroy in syndication of culprits in addition to OMS, open market sale. It has to apply some other market control mechanism. Rich nations should pay compensation to Bangladesh for meeting the challenges of the climate change. LDCs, least developed countries with 800 million people, contribute less than 1% to carbon dioxide emission. Yet they are more vulnerable. Bangladesh, among LDCs, is the most vulnerable. 20% of world's population is most responsible for 80% carbon emission. Most of them belong to rich countries. Kyoto Protocol introduced carbon trading and user pays principles. Carbon trading through emission quotas is one of the effective tools to reduce overall carbon emission. The nations that emit less than their quota will be able to sell emission credits to the nations that exceed their emission limit. For the 5 years compliance period from 2008 to 2010, all the members needed to cut emission according to the emission quotas. If developed countries fail to execute the treaty, third world countries will be benefited by getting emission credit. Because of climate change, exposure of extreme events like flood, cyclone, drought is appearing recurrently. Recently, Bangladesh experienced the devastating effects of two natural disasters, Sidor and Aila. On the other hand, sea level is rising alarmingly because of global warming. If present level of rising continues by 2050, 17% of low-lying coastal area will be displaced. Nowadays, those areas are called climate refugee. Rich countries have to take the responsibilities for these refugees as well as having to pay compensation for combating climate change. World Bank is a vital source of financial and technical assistance to developing countries around the world. Its mission is to fight poverty with passion and professionalism for lasting results, and to help people by providing resources, sharing knowledge, and forging partnerships in the public and private sectors. They are not a bank in the common sense. They are made up of two unique development institutions owned by 189 member countries: the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development (IBRD) and the International Development Association (IDA). IMF, International Monetary Fund, is an organization of 188 countries working to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, facilitate international trade, promote high employment and sustainable economic growth, and reduce poverty around the world. It offers highly leveraged loans mainly to poorer countries. Its headquarters are in Washington, D.C., United States. Millennium Development Goal (MDG). In this 21st century, one of the most widely discussed topics throughout the world is Millennium Development Goals. In September 2000, meeting at the United Nations Millennium Summit, the world leaders agreed to a remarkable document, the Millennial Declaration. This historic achievement committed the global community to a hard and specific agenda for human development. Rather than simply agreeing that development should continue along much the same lines as before or call for general improvements, the declaration demanded that the world set its sights higher and aim for 8 specific goals, most of which were to be achieved by 2015 and for which there are now 48. Mostly numerical indicators. What subsequently came to be known as the Millennial Development Goals are: 1. Eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. 2. Achieve universal primary education. 3. Promote gender equality and empower women. 4. Reduce child mortality. 5. Improve mental health. 6. Combat HIV, AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. 7. Ensure environmental sustainability. 8. Develop a global partnership for development. Good governance, role of information and communication technology. In general, good governance means an ideal governing system that is inevitable for political, economic, social, and cultural development of a state that works best to achieve self-reliance, sustainable development, and social justice, and the ideal functioning of government that operates most effectively. The elements of good governance tend to vary from country to country, but as ones of age, information and communication technology development is one of the most important elements of good governance. In this world of globalization and IT revolution, a nation's proper access to information and communication technology is a must for national development. Role of information and communication technology. A. Decision-making process by each agency and ministry of the government could be aided with ICT. B. Governments may bring transparency in the government operations. C. We can develop a simple and effective tax collection system for NBR. D. Education, employment sector, rural healthcare can be developed through the use of ICT. E. Business and banking sector can be more easy, speedy, and developed through the process of ICT development. The ICT may be used in our manufacturing sector. It may provide as higher productivity and lower cost and effective international marketing in the garments, jute, leather, frozen fish, and packaged food sector. So we can say for a good governance, ICT development is essential to every growth sector of a country, especially in Bangladesh. Industrial development and environment pollution. In the civilized third world like ours, industrialization is a must. Without the industrial development, a nation cannot show its proper identity. But in the blind race of industrialization, people forget the adverse effect of it on our environment. We should realize it to survive in this beautiful planet. Industrialization to achieve economic development has resulted in global environmental degradation. While the impacts of industrial activity on the natural environmental impacts of environmental are a major concern in developed countries, much less is known about these impacts in developing countries. The developing world is often seen as having a high percentage of heavily polluting activities within its industrial sector. This, combined with a substantial agricultural sector which contributes to deforestation, the erosion of the topsoil and desertification, has led to extreme pressure on the environment and impoverishes the population by destroying its natural resource base. The crisis suggests that sound industrialization policies are of paramount importance in a developing country's economic development and calls for the management of natural resources and the adoption of low waste or environmentally clean technologies. Poor transport planning causes havoc at Dhaka city. Now, Dhaka is the mega city in the world. Its present population is 16 million. There is specific rules and regulations for modern urbanization. Rajuk and City Corporation have no roadmap. A large number of workers and job searchers are coming every year, but the land in Dhaka city is not increasing. So this huge population are deprived of transport and other services. Types of havoc are A. Environmental degradation, B. Traffic jam, C. Few vehicle, D. Fuel crisis, E. Severe diseases, F. Road accident, G. Effect on residents, H. Sound pollution, I. Lack of transparency, J. No hygiene. For poor transport planning, the city dwellers are facing unlimited traffic jam. So we do not reach our destination in time. The expired vehicles affect our environment. That increases carbon dioxide and other harmful gas in the air. So our average life expectancy is decreasing day by day. There is no specific route for the vehicle. Traffic law is not obeyed properly, that occurs road accident. In every year, a lot of people perish their life. Sound pollution that causes heart diseases, mental agony, and other unpalatable situations. So our government and other organizational civil society have to play a vital role for the strong transport planning. Then city dwellers get relief from this problem partly. PRSP. The PRSP provides an essential framework for alleviation of poverty and attainment of the Millennium Development Goals, set by the United Nations. Like other countries, Bangladesh embraced the PRSP framework to combine or integrate it with planning process. The PRSP in Bangladesh was first introduced in an interim form in 2003. Later, in 2006, a formal full-fledged PRSP-1 was drawn up and endorsed by the then government. This document invited rather hostile criticisms from various stakeholders and the civil society for being largely donor-driven. In this backdrop, the second PRSP or PRSP-2 was taken, and it is closely watched for how far it meets the legitimate local expectations and needs. Transit, transshipment, and corridor. Transit refers to the passage across another country's territory using its own surface transport. while transshipment refers to the same movement using the transport of transiting countries. For example, if India is using its own transport dispatches commodities through Bangladesh to northeastern provinces, we may call it a transit system. But if India dispatches commodities using Bangladeshi transport through Bangladeshi land, we may call it transshipment system. On the other hand, if a passage goes through a second nation and thereby establish a bypass connection, then this transit is called a corridor. For example, if a road connects India, Bangladesh and India, it's corridor. The World Trade Organization (WTO) is an organization that intends to supervise and liberalize international trade. The organization officially commenced on January 1, 1995 under the Marrakech Agreement, replacing General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which commenced in 1948. The organization deals with regulation of trade between participating countries. It provides a framework for negotiating and formalizing trade agreements and a dispute resolution process. The WTO has 164 members representing more than 97% of total world trade and 30 observers, most seeking membership. Its headquarters is at the Centre William Schrappert, Geneva, Switzerland. Asian Development Bank (ADB). The Asian Development Bank is an international development finance institution whose mission is to help its developing member countries reduce poverty and improve the quality of life of their people. Its headquarters is in Manila and was established in 1966. ADB is owned and financed by its 67 members, of which 48 are from the region and 19 are from other parts of the globe. Business environment. A good business environment is the precondition for economic development, because business and commerce of a country predominate most of the sectors of its economy. It is linked with the savings, investment, employment, external economic relations, and after all, the broader socio-economic development of a country. In a good business environment with a stable financial condition, adequate utility and security services, stable political atmosphere, and adequate infrastructure facilities, all the sectors of the economy must run well. To improve the situation and to make a good business environment in Bangladesh, following measures should be considered. Programs of financial sector reform should be enhanced. Consensus among political parties is a must. They should abandon programs like Hartal. Police forces must be motivated positively and reorganized. Banks and other financial institutions must be made effective in the distribution and recovery of loan. Existing legal system must be reorganized and adequately manned. Special measures should be undertaken to extend the utility and other services to business firms and organizations. Problems in our stock market. Our stock markets are riddled with a number of problems. The major problems in our stock market involve that a devastating fall down of share market in 1996 has shattered the confidence of investors. Thus, the challenges ahead of Bangladesh stock market are to revamp the share market by restoring confidence among investors. Although sometimes the stock market bubble up, but such rises in the share prices are not consistent with the share market fundamentals. The management of our stock market is very weak and underdeveloped. Besides, the regulatory capacity of SEC is also inadequate. The implementation of rules, regulations, and guidelines are not very effective. We are lacking in quality securities. Most of the listed companies are in bad position. Objectives of stock market. The major objectives of a stock market are as under. 1. Providing a new source of finance for private domestic investment. 2. Improving a company's financial risks. 3. Improving the efficiency of investment by allocating finance to more efficient investors. 4. Improving the level of savings. 5. Benefits for institutional savers. 6. Foreign exchange gains that result from the inflow of funds from overseas portfolio investors. 7. Encouraging privatization. Problems of e-banking. There are some problems of e-banking as firstly, trickery and improper uses are the main issues of e-banking today. In spite of the guarantee of security, clients always remain anxious if anybody brings changes in his account through improper use. However, the use of SET, secured electronic transaction, and cryptographic devices has lessened the fear of insecurity. It is said that the use of computer in banking may integrate the very problem of unemployment, especially in developing countries. Thirdly, conservativeness of the clients as well as their inability to use electronic devices is the important barrier in the way of e-banking. Fourthly, limitations of banks in introducing e-banking is another problem in the application of electronic banking. However, there are some risks in e-banking which sometimes make the client anxious about the security of his account. So, new devices and techniques are being introduced to make it more secure and reliable. Problem and prospects of foreign direct investment. The biggest problem in attracting foreign direct investment results from Bangladesh's image as an impoverished and undeveloped country subject to frequent and devastating natural disasters. The second major hindrance to increase FDI is poor implementation of the new liberal investment policies. Added to these difficulties are such problems as corruption, labor militancy, uncertain law and order situation, poor infrastructure, inadequate commercial laws, and courts and policy instability. Thus, to attract increasing foreign direct investment, following measures should be taken. Initiatives must be taken to convince foreigners that natural disasters are not the problem for investors. Government must be more active in implementing the liberal policies and more reform programs should be undertaken in telecommunication, energy, electricity, port and other sectors. There should have consensus among political parties regarding economic aspects of national importance. Security agencies must be made more active and modernized to ensure stability in the law and order situation. Problem of rural development in Bangladesh. The problems and paradoxes with the programs, policies and initiatives for rural development in Bangladesh are many. Among them, the most striking problems are as under. 1. Theoretical inconsistency. 2. People around development rather than development around people. 3. Distance between experts and target groups. 4. Lack of motivation for work. 5. Functional gap between development centers and villages. 6. Need does not govern aid, but aid creates need. 7. Triangular share of benefits instead of rural poor. the role of bank in rural development. The role of bank in rural development is manifold. Banks are functional in the process of savings, capital formation, investment, production in the rural economy, such as 1. Banks motivate people for savings through various programs and collect the dispersed savings of the people. Further, bank invests in it in rural economy. Banks provide the rural small businessmen with loans from deposited money, which plays a crucial role in rural development. Especially the microcredit programs of different banks made the rural landless people bankable and provided them with required capital for business and other economic activities. Three, banks play a crucial role in rural capital formation. Banks collect the dispersed savings of the rural people through different deposit schemes, then distribute loans to them for starting a productive as well as any other self-sufficient economic activity. Commercial and specialized banks, especially nationalized commercial banks, distribute agricultural loans to rural people, which make them able to invest in their farms or lands. As most of our farmers are poor, they cannot invest enough to increase the production. So, bank loans help them increase the production through proper irrigation, fertilization, and so on. 5. Banks play a crucial role in sustaining and developing our small and cottage industries. Because of most of our small and cottage industries are being closed due to lack of enough capital. 6. Banks can provide our unemployed youths with training and loan to start businesses or to invest in a farm. Such training and income-generating projects can make our youth self-reliant, lessen the intricate problem of unemployment, and improve the standards of living in our rural areas. 7. Banks play a crucial role in mentioning the disadvantaged groups in community under some special programs. Even through making the disadvantaged people economically self-sufficient, banks play important role to empower them and lessen the social inequality thereby. Advantage of automation in banking. Automation has made the world more dynamic and progressive. It has brought changes in economy, polity, culture, society, and the people themselves. In the finance and banking sector, this change is more tremendous because the implementation of automation in banking has ensured the mathematical accuracy and promptness. It has made banking transactions more speedy, easy, and comfortable. Today, the client need not to carry a checkbook or cash money, rather it is enough for him to just carry a plastic card. But the spread of electronic banking in our country is very limited. The other benefits of these banking systems are communication network, delivery channel, switching system, ATM, debit card and credit card, ready cash. Globalization has become a buzzword in our today's world. It is a process of expanding trade and commerce worldwide by creating a borderless market. Borderless global market means considering the world in a single market crossing national boundaries. It has a far-reaching effect on different aspects of our life. With the development of high-tech communication media and rapid transportation facilities, the world has become both smaller and closer. Now we can learn instantly what is happening in the furthest corner of the world and travel to any country in the shortest possible time. Countries of the world are like families in a village that is the world that has become a global village. The people of the world can easily exchange their joys, sorrows, views, and emotions with each other. Thus, we have conquered distance and time. If one country is in distress, other can immediately come to its assistance. However, capitalist countries are being more benefited than developing countries by globalization. In the name of globalization, the industrially developed countries are exploiting the opportunities of availability of cheap labor in developing countries. We can make our world a better place by building up an atmosphere of mutual understanding and cooperation through globalization. Corruption means adopting unfair means for achieving personal gain by the people, especially people in power. It is a social malady. Corruption is becoming unbridled day by day. People become corrupted mainly out of greed for money, wealth, and power. There is hardly any sphere of daily life where there is no practice of corruption. Businessmen, lawyers, doctors, service holders, politicians, engineers, and teachers are not free from corruption. Corruption has a cancerous effect on our society. It is worse than a prostitute. Because a prostitute destroys the very fiber of the character of an individual, whereas corruption destroys the very fiber of the character of a society. Although it is not easy to root out corruption, steps should be taken immediately to stop it. The mass media can play a significant role in this regard. The common people of the country should also raise their voice against corruption. Anti-Corruption Commission has been working hard to root out corruption from all spheres of life. But its success depends on the willingness of the government to let it work independently and give it all types of support it needs. Child labor. Bangladesh is a third world country. With the rapid growth of population, the people of our country are getting poorer day by day. Most of the poverty-stricken people cannot afford the basic necessities of life such as food, shelter, clothing, and education. As a result, poor parents are seen engaging their children to work from a very early stage. The future of the country depends on children. By making children work, we are not only destroying their future but also playing with the destiny of our country. Most of the child workers in Bangladesh are manual workers. They have to work very hard to just keep body and soul together. The child laborers are helpless and the dishonest employers take advantage of their helplessness. They have to work for 14 hours a day but are not paid for their overtime. Sometimes household child workers are tortured both physically and mentally. Child labor is the bane of our industrial society. Child labor is a sad reality of our world. So, whenever it is practiced, it has to be eliminated. Employment of children in hazardous trades and occupations like fireworks or poisonous gas producing factories, mines, etc. should be banned. In fact, elimination of child labor is a must for ensuring sustainable development of the country. Self-employment. Creating employment for one by one's own effort is called self-employment. Bangladesh is a populous country and it cannot provide its people with employment opportunities because of many constraints. As a result, unemployment problem is very acute in our country. But self-employment can easily eliminate this unemployment problem. A man can explore scopes of self-employment using his qualities, capacities, and qualifications. Fishery, pisciculture, dairy, poultry raising, vegetable cultivation, flower cultivation are some of the scopes of self-employment. The atmosphere of our country is not fully congenial to self-employment. There are a good number of young people in our country who are interested to launch their own enterprise. But because of their financial incapacity, they cannot start their own business. So, to make self-employment popular, liberal credit policy should be taken so that able young men, both educated and uneducated, may have easy access to small and medium enterprise loan, also known as SME loan. The higher educated young man may be provided with collateral-free loan to start their own business, as their probability of success is very high. Self-employment creates opportunities of working for one's own prosperity and well-being. Making people aware of benefits of self-employment will help to make self-employment more popular day by day. Poverty alleviation. Although poverty has been praised by poets, recommended by saints, and welcomed by philosophers, it is a curse. Many people commit crimes under the pressure of poverty, even sell their bodies due to dire want. The poor people are in a pitiable condition. Social conditions are against them. They lose human dignity and self-respect. It is capitalism that gives rise to poverty and makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. Alleviation of poverty is not possible without ensuring equitable distribution of wealth and opportunities. Unequal distribution of wealth, overpopulation, and exploitation of the poor by the rich should be addressed as immediately as possible. Besides, pressure should be put on the rich to earn less profit in order to solve the problem of poverty. The poor people should be provided with necessary expertise so that they can earn their livelihood and lead a decent life. Our attitude towards work should be changed, as our laziness is responsible for our poor condition to a large extent. But it is important that wealth can be fairly distributed. Women's contribution to the development of our country. Almost half of the total population of our country are women. They are playing a vital role in all spheres of life. They have come out of their four walls of their parents' or husband's house. In the past, housekeeping was the main occupation of women. But today, they are working as policymakers, teachers, doctors, engineers, and administrators, rather than merely as daughters, wives, and mothers. They will be able to contribute more to the national development if they are ensured a better working environment. So, if we keep our women folk illiterate, we will have to lag behind as a nation. Women empowerment has become the demand of that time. Steps must be taken to provide women with social security and equal opportunity, and to ensure empowerment of women. Women have proven their worth in both doing household work and working outside their houses. In order to ensure sustainable socio-economic development of our country, there is no alternative but to improve women literacy rate.